Am I the a-hole for kicking out my boyfriend's homeless friend? Original post. So my female 22, boyfriend 24, has this friend female 25 who moved in 4 months because she had nowhere to go. Now, I don't mind having her as long as she respects our boundaries and rules around a house, but that's definitely not it. She is very loud, comments on everything, and just does inappropriate stuff in general, and excuses it for being a Latina, and that's just how they are. She doesn't help at all besides maybe cooking sometimes, but doesn't clean up the mess she makes, and she invites people over whenever she wants. She changes in the living room in front of us, literally took off her underwear, and I asked her to change in her room. But her excuse is that she was trying to feel like home and that she suggested I should too, as it will strengthen my bond with my boyfriend. I talked to my boyfriend about how I'm kind of uncomfortable with this whole situation, and he told me not to overthink it, and that she's just very unbothered and cool. She always interrupted our time together too, and would sit between me and him during a movie, or take my space while I take a toilet break, and she cuddles him in the most unfriendly way. When I asked jokingly if she was trying to take my man, she would excuse it on her ethnicity, and that's just how they grew up. So I knew I had to ruin this Friday night they had for them. I went up to them and she was all over him as usual. I called my boyfriend, and when he was about to get up, she said how it was their favorite part, and that he could leave later. I insisted, but she kept pulling him. So I went and pulled him to our room, discussed how what she's doing is really upsetting and that I no longer want her living with us. He agreed I had a right, but that she has nowhere to go, and that I'll have to wait until she finds a job, but she's not even trying to get. While we're talking, she came and tried to open the door, which was locked, so she started knocking. We just ignored her until it got louder and he asked her to leave, but she got even louder and then started saying how I ruined the only time she gets with him, which obviously is not a case. I had enough at that point, but my boyfriend suggested he talks to her first, so he went and they took too long, like almost 2 hours. And I went to check on them, and heard her telling him he shouldn't accept someone who ruins a friendship as a partner, and that is a big red flag and that he should kick me out. But this place is actually my property that I inherited from my aunt, and at that point I knew I had to kick her out. I didn't even ask what conclusion they came up with, and waited in the living room until they came out, and I just told her to look for another place and gave her 2 weeks max. She's been crying since yesterday, refusing to eat and not coming out of the room, and my boyfriend is saying I went overboard and I just hit a sensitive spot of hers, basically telling her to leave when she has no family or anywhere to go. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. This is your property, correct? She has some nerve then to suggest to your boyfriend he kick you out. Well, she didn't know it was my property. I guess she assumed we rented that place. OP, what are you getting out of this relationship with your boyfriend? He moved his other girlfriend into your house. I can't believe you've given her 2 more weeks. I wouldn't feel safe around her, to be honest. I really think you need to consider the possibility that your boyfriend is cheating on you with this woman. Yeah, he is so cheating with her, or at least wants to. The changing in front of him in the living room would had me like, get out. The way he acts with her and stands up for her over OP, says he's banging her. Not the a-hole, but you don't have a homeless friend problem. You've got a boyfriend problem. I suspect he may be building her an art room. Not the a-hole, but you should kick your boyfriend out too since he has no respect for you. They're both freeloading off of you, and disrespectful as hell. Start the eviction proceedings. This right here. OP, please evict them both ASAP. Your boyfriend is arguably worse than she is. Now for the update. Thank you everyone for the advice and helping me open an eye on the real issue. It was past midnight when I posted that, and my life literally took a 180 degree in less than 24 hours. It has been overwhelming, and I didn't expect this would reach many people. The comments were like a slap in the face I really needed. Apparently, I was too blind. Yeah, I guess my boyfriend isn't who I thought he was. He has been trying to give her food, trying to calm her down, and literally took a day off from college and work. He goes on Sundays too, which he never did for me. And he never even get days off from his classes unless really necessary with proof, nursing. So I don't know how he managed to get a day off. I really wanted to make sure it is what it looks like before deciding my next move. I prepared lunch way before Tom had asked him if he was around for lunch. His response? I'm trying to get her to have breakfast and you're talking about lunch? You're becoming unrecognizable. Yeah, I didn't know what to reply. So just ask again, but he said we can have lunch together if she's willing to join us. as it is rude if we eat without her. At this point, I felt like crap, to be honest. I'd asked him why she was so important that he cancelled all his plans just to support her emotionally, which I never did when I went through things myself. But he just left like that. So I invited my guy friend over, which he doesn't like, and I explained to him our situation and just asked him to be comfortable. I didn't want to do the cuddling stuff like them because we didn't break up yet at that point, and it was weird anyways because we don't usually. My boyfriend never realized someone was over until he came to take food. He saw us having lunch together and he just gave me a look, said hi and was going to take some for themselves until he realized it was a creamy rice casserole, which his friend doesn't like. And yes, I did that on purpose, and chicken roast with some sides. And he literally glared at me and said, "You know she doesn't eat that." And I just replied, "Well, it's not her who I made this for." Then he threw the plate, started shouting, asking what the heck was wrong with me and that he wishes he never dated me. It was so scary my friend got involved. They got aggressive, and I just asked him to leave with his other girlfriend, which he replied with, "Oh, so you're replacing me that fast?" But I told him he was the one who has replaced me a long time ago, but I was too dumb to realize. He actually moved in fully when his friend came, and colleges here do provide dorms. But of course, it's not like she can live with him. And I couldn't care less anymore. Also, no legal action is required for someone you haven't signed papers with where I live. They were just guests. So I packed his things for him, which aren't a lot, and left it by the front door. He came crying and apologizing, and acknowledging what he did was wrong and just other BS I didn't want to hear because the damage was already done. My friend was of great support, and he dealt with everything else as I cried my eyes out in my room. And that sums up how I went through my first heartbreak. It was my first relationship and I did love him. But I guess I can watch, eat, and do anything now without catering to anyone's needs. I'm changing the locks tomorrow morning, and we're ordering fried chicken. Apparently a proven heartbreak remedy by my friend. And although her excuse was bringing up her race, I know better than that. Thank you all for your support. Dude was sleeping with that girl 100%. What a freaking dum-dum. Now both of them can be happily homeless. Lol. If he was sleeping with her already, it was definitely going to happen sooner rather than later. His friend overplayed her hand. The dummy just assumed the place was in his name. I didn't think about the possibility that Opie had the power to kick the both of them out. It seemed like the general plan was for Opie to leave and for the boyfriend and friend to shack up together. Then they could claim to their friends that it was because Opie was so awful they sought solace in one another. All the time ignoring that Opie owned the place. Something I doubt the boyfriend told a friend. This might also belong in the entitled people forum because, damn, the ex-boyfriend of Opie really thought that Opie would house the potential side piece and him for nothing? Just damn. Of course he's crying and apologizing now. He just realized he may literally have screwed himself out of the house at home. He thought he was such a catch that Opie wouldn't dare break up with him and would let his side piece continue pushing her out. Hope the side piece is worth homelessness. Opie realized she needed to return this catch to the sea and did exactly that. Next story. Am I the a-hole for moving out because I don't want to help my boyfriend out with the rent? Plus mini update. My boyfriend, 26 male, and I, 24 female, have been together for 3 years. We live in New York City, and he makes over $200,000 per year while I'm studying for my master's in social work and have no income. Right now, I'm doing an unpaid year-long internship 3 days per week as well as classes 2 days per week. It's rare to get a paid internship in social work, plus internships are mandatory. I spend 12 hours every day either working, studying, commuting, or in class. My only free days are on weekends, so I have no time for a paid job. My mom helps me financially by paying for my Metro card and healthcare expenses, but everything else I rely on loans. Before I moved in with my boyfriend, there was a roach infestation in my apartment, so I'd stay over at his place a lot. My lease was ending soon, so he asked me if I wanted to live with him. At first, I joked with him that his living standards would go down since I can't afford a nice place. But he insisted on paying the rent until I finished grad school. Then we would split the rents based on income. I originally wanted to live in a cheaper place in Queens or Brooklyn, but my boyfriend likes his current place and insisted I move in since he would be the one paying the rent. So I moved into his $5,000 per month luxury condo in the city this August. All of a sudden, my boyfriend recently started asking me to pay half that rent, $2,500 per month. I was confused because he was the one who wanted to pay the rent in full. Apparently, he was talking to his friends and they all think it's weird that I don't pay rent and that I was a gold digger. I let my boyfriend know that I can't afford $2,500 per month, and he said I was leeching off of him. So I told him that he should find someone within his social class then so he doesn't have to worry about a gold digger like me leeching off of him. I stayed at my friend's place for a few days while figuring out what to do. I called my mom about my situation and she is willing to help me out, but the maximum she can afford for rent is $800. I found some places in Queens within the price range, less than 15 minutes away from the city and a bus ride away from my school, so I went to check them out a couple days ago. I've been texting the landlord and my new roommates and I already signed a lease. I told my boyfriend about my new place and he got upset and asked me to stay. He said that he was willing to accept $800 per month instead of $2,500 per month if that's all I can afford. But I told him I don't want him changing his mind again and demanding more money from me in the future. He lived in this condo alone for several years, so it's not like he can't afford to live there without my help. I wouldn't mind splitting rent with him, but I would have to live in a more affordable place outside of Manhattan like I originally wanted. Apparently, some of our mutual friends think I'm being unreasonable for moving out, instead of talking to him and staying by paying the amount I can afford in rent, and that I shouldn't have let him pay my portion of the rent. Now for the top comments. Around he fooled and out he found, not the a-hole. It is refreshing to see someone just up and say, nope, that ain't gonna work, and then promptly exit the crappy situation and take care of things. The audacity to suddenly demand a cool $2,500 after you had an agreement, knowing you had previously suggested moving somewhere affordable and he insisted, because his friends hurt his ego while grossly insulting you. Make him seem weak-willed, thin-skinned, self-centered, kinda manipulative, and a terrible negotiator. Because now he's sat home alone with his sad face on that his girlfriend left. Plus, he's got no chance of getting a bit of rent for the place he probably can't afford, and no chance of lording it over you anymore, which it seems like he might have been inclined to do. Talk about a backfiring plan. For real, if he got convinced by his friends she's a gold digger when he was the one who insisted on you moving in without rent, and suddenly asking for $2,500 per month? He knows you have no source other than loans and did all this. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. They think you're being unreasonable? That's rich. He literally convinced you to move into his apartment, turning down your offers to find a cheaper place so you could contribute. The fact that his friends see you as a gold digger and don't appear to know the full story that you offered to pay and to find a cheaper place and he insisted otherwise is also a red flag to me. It makes me question how he talks about you to his friends. Definitely not the a-hole, and I would question why you would want to date someone who is so easily influenced by his friends' uninformed opinions of you. Seriously, he needed to tell his friends, you don't know her? She's not a gold digger. I'm the one who asked her to move in, and that I would pay the rent until she finishes grad school. The fact that he didn't is probably because he partially believes them. I'm with Opie. He moved the goalposts twice already, and is messing with her life. She should keep her independence. Update. Yes, I did dump him. I blocked him and his idiot friends and everything. My friends also blocked him since he tried to contact me through them. I'm going to enjoy being single and never relying on a man financially ever again. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for not allowing my daughter's mother to walk back into her life as if nothing has happened? My 19 male used to be in a relationship with my daughter's mother Ashley, 19, through high school. We didn't use protection as she told me she was on birth control. I know now. Very stupid on my part. Her parents moved so she had to move high schools. She broke up with me, and I hadn't heard from her until 2 years ago when she showed up at my house with a newborn. She told me she was mine, and said she didn't want her and that she was giving up her parental rights. My parents went mental with me, obviously. Fast forward 2 years and we have had a paternity done. Confirmed that I'm the father. Got her parents involved who didn't even know that she had a baby. And been to court and been given sole custody of Leah with the help of my parents. Her parents wanted nothing to do with Leah, so custody wasn't an issue. My parents have been brilliant. And now I'm legally an adult. Sole custody has been given to me. Now, Ashley wants to meet her daughter. I have said no for now as I don't trust that she's not going to walk away again when she gets bored of Leah. I'm not ruling it out at all, but I don't want to put my daughter through losing her mom again. I asked my caseworker and she said after speaking to Ashley that she wasn't convinced she really wanted to have a daughter either. She made it seem like she thinks it would be cool to have a baby, which is not the reason for getting in contact. My caseworker and lawyer have both said that I am under no obligation to allow her back into Leah's life as she signed her rights away, and so did her parents. I have explained how I feel to Ashley and why I said no, but she called me an a-hole. Her friends have also been calling me an a-hole around my college. Ashley doesn't go to my college, but now everybody knows what happened from her friends. Some people didn't even know I had a child before all this. I just want to know if I'm an a-hole. Not an a-hole. Putting your child's needs over the absent mother is the right thing to do. Exactly. Leah is a toddler. Right now, her biggest needs relationship-wise are stability and desire to be present. Mom can want all she wants, but unless she's willing to be a stable, happy presence in Leah's life, then it's better for her that her mom is absent. I got confused with the first paragraph, but if Ashley walked out on Leah, then yes, you have every right to doubt her. And the fact that she told her friends about your situation and put people against you? That sucks, man. Zero maturity on her part. If Ashley really loved Leah, then she should have kept things between you two and been patient. Sorry, when I wrote the post I was angry and it all just came out. Ashley walked out on Leah and signed her rights away. She describes Leah as a cancer sucking the life out of her to her friends. I know I am biased as she is mine, but I don't know how anybody could describe a baby like that. She describes Leah as a cancer sucking the life out of her to her friends. Not a hole. Don't let Ashley back in your life in any way. That right there, that's not the sign of someone ready, willing, or able to parent, much less be a good human. Am I the a-hole for not opening the door to my sister's kids? I'm 23, female, and the third born in our 4-kid family. Me, along with my younger brother by 1 year, are child-free as we're not exactly a big fan of kids and get annoyed by them easily. My sister has 2 kids, 5 female and 3 male. They're alright, but their constant screaming and crying gets on my nerves. They're also very spoiled and don't like the word no. I have said many times that I'm not good with kids. I don't really want to look after any as I get annoyed by them easily, but I just got shrugged off. My sister found that trend on TikTok, where parents leave their kids outside of a family member's house, knock on the door and get in the car and only leave when the door opens and leaving the kids there. She finds it funny while I don't. I think it's inconsiderate and also dangerous. My sister laughed at me and said, maybe I'll do this on you. I told her not to because I won't answer the door even if I was inside. She told me that she'll just leave the kids there and I'll be forced to look after them. I said that I still wouldn't open the door and would call the police on her. She just laughed it off. I had a weekend off from work and planned to enjoy it by relaxing in my apartment where I turned my second bedroom into an art studio and planned to do some art pieces and working on my story. I woke up on Saturday morning quite early and enjoyed the peace and quiet until I got a knock at my door. I have a camera outside of my door facing it just in case something bad happens, and there's an app for it on my phone. I checked and saw that it was my sister's kids. I knew then that she was trying to pull that stupid TikTok trend and got angry. But I kept my word like I told her before and didn't answer the door. More knocks came and my sister tried to call me, and when I didn't answer her, she kept texting me to open the door. I texted her to get her kids and leave, as I told her that I wouldn't look after them and she knew I wanted the weekend to myself. She just kept texting me to open the door. 20 minutes go by, I don't know why she waited that long, and she texted me that she was leaving and for me to open my door to babysit them. I texted her back that if she didn't come back right now, that I'm calling the police. I got no answer from her and called the police. 2 officers came to my house while another 2 tracked down my sister and made her drive to my place. She stomped out of her car, screaming at what a horrible sister I am and why it's no wonder I am single and will die alone. She finally gets her kids back into her car and drives off, the police following after her, and I get back to my weekend off. My sister screamed at our family about what I had done, and there have been mixed reviews, saying that I was entitled to have my time off by myself, and others saying that she's a mother and deserves a break every now and then. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Strangely, I don't have an issue with this. Calling the cops was the nuclear option, but you flat out said what you would do. Yes, your sister might want some time off, but there's a thing for that. It's called hire a sitter. Dropping them off, and for all she knew you weren't even home. Totally irresponsible. You're right. Even if you gave in, she'd be pulling this all the time. In this case, I wouldn't say it's a nuclear option. It's a sensible thing to do to ensure the kids' safety if the mother just flat out left them. I agree on the safety of the kids. It's nuclear in that calling the cops on a family member has permanent ramifications, both in that she now has a record if there's another incident. She deserves a record for leaving her kids unattended outside someone's home when she told her she wasn't going to watch the kids. They are her kids and her responsibility, and she's negligent for leaving them there. There should be a record, and she deserved what she got. Not the a-hole. It's not a question of her needing a break. It's a question about dumping her kids on someone who doesn't want to babysit them. I've heard about this thing. And not only is it incredibly rude, but it can also be dangerous if the parents drive off before the door is opened. Anyway, you told your sister you wouldn't babysit them and you'd call the police if she left. Then you didn't babysit them and you called the police when she left. Seems pretty clear to me that she's the a-hole in this. Who leaves their children with someone who has clearly stated they don't like children and they did not want to look after the children? She seriously needs to have a look at herself. What she did is not okay. You are not the a-hole. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to babysit ever, paid or unpaid? I am the youngest of 4 children at 21. My husband and I are wanting to wait around 4 more years to have children, so I'm not child-free, I just don't have any. I have 12 nieces and nephews. My siblings all have a lot of kids. All of my siblings are also single, divorced, or never married. They have always asked me to babysit, and I've always said no. None of them know how to discipline their kids. Their kids will lie, steal, bite each other, etc., and just being around them is hard. My oldest brother has offered to pay me to babysit, but the other 2 want me to do it for free. I refuse all 3. My entire family thinks I'm an a-hole for never babysitting, so I've told them if I wanted to watch kids, I'd have some. My sister wanted to go on a date the other day and no one would watch her 6 kids. I told her, too bad. She said she'll never find a nice man to settle down with if she can't go out. I said she's delusional. It is not my problem. Am I the a-hole for never babysitting under any circumstances? Edit. When I do have children, I absolutely will not ask any of them to babysit. I'd rather pay a professional. My sister wanted to go on a date the other day and no one would watch her 6 kids. I told her too bad. She said she'll never find a nice man to settle down with if she can't go out. I think I see her problem here. You could probably babysit for her every night for the next year, and I doubt she will find a nice man who wants to settle down with her and her 6 kids. Not the a-hole. LMAO. Yeah, she's a mess. My least favorite sibling. Just out of curiosity, how many fathers between those kids? They each have a different father. You're doing those kids a favor every time you don't help your sister procreate again. Their chances in life are already pretty ruined. Have you at all considered adopting any of these children that are likely living in squalor? I've considered taking my sister's oldest. He's 14, almost 15, and is always forced to watch his younger siblings, 1 to 9 years old. But my sister would never let me take her free babysitter, to be honest. Not the a-hole. It sounds like they should all be investing in a good babysitter, nanny, housekeeper, etc. I've taken care of kids in many different capacities, but there's not enough money in the world to have me babysit 6 kids solo. Well, they all complain because none of them can afford childcare, because of how many kids they have. I do feel bad, but I also feel like they made a choice. Yeah, if they can't afford to have kids or can't afford to take care of their kids, then they should stop having kids. Lol, that's not your fault. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not wanting to invite my 9-year-old nephew to my wedding? My fiancé and I both had a discussion and both agreed that we don't want my nephew at our wedding, which will be happening in 2 months. The reason why is because my nephew is out of control. He doesn't listen, can't sit still for even a minute, and is loud. My nephew even ruined my dress. I am a fashion designer and made my own wedding dress. And one day my sister came over and invited with my nephew and niece. I invited them both in, but told them all to not go in my office as I'm working on something in there, which was my dress. My nephew goes in there and cuts my dress with a pair of my fabric scissors on purpose, while I was in the kitchen getting them some snacks and my niece was playing with my daughter. My sister didn't even make him apologize and blamed it on me for leaving my scissor in the open in a room he wasn't even supposed to be in. There have been many times where my nephew been banned from events because of his behavior. My sister has a hard time even getting babysitters for him. And my nephew even gotten suspended from school on multiple occasions. She still hasn't done anything about his behavior. When I told my sister, she freaked out saying that if her son's not allowed to go, then she won't be going. It asked me if I was banning our brother's son as well. She made a Facebook post about how I hate my nephew and I'm not inviting him to my wedding over a dress and complained to our mom. My mom agrees with my sister and says that it's unfair for me to invite my niece, but not my nephew, and that I'm gonna make my nephew feel like there is something wrong with him. My brother agrees with me and thinks it will make my sister think about actually doing something about her son's behavior, rather than pretending like there was nothing wrong. I know how my nephew is, and I don't want his behavior to risk the day I worked so hard in planning. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. I think you should accept your sister's offer to not attend. Okay, thanks. Bye. Not the a-hole. And I would respond to her social media posts explaining his age, behavior, and her complete lack of control and discipline of the child. I wouldn't. Most people see through this type of vitriol and it just comes across as immature. I'd be completely silent and let the sister spew. If people ask in private, explain the situation calmly and with remorse. Not the a-hole. And given that your sister covered for your nephew who is way too old to accidentally use scissors on other people's stuff, then having her boycott and protest is fitting. She can make her choice, raise an undisciplined child or not, but you, hopefully, only get one wedding, and you don't need a wild kid messing it up, nor do you need this drama. I had to go back to the title to read his age, and was surprised he was 9. I could picture a 3 to 5-year-old doing that, but at 9? He should have enough self-control. He knew what he was doing and is acting out. Not the a-hole. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to stop seeing my daughter over her sister? I, 56 female, and my husband Kurt, 59 male, have 2 daughters. Ruth, 32, and June, 30. 8 years ago, Ruth split up with her college boyfriend Adam, 32. They'd been together since she was 20 or 21, and it was as serious as a college relationship could be. About 5 years ago, June announced that she reconnected with Adam at some alumni get-together. They'd all gone to the same university and that they are now dating. Of course, Kurt and I were shocked that she would do this despite her sister's history with him. But she insisted that they were in love and she can't help that. And that Ruth and Adam hadn't been together in years, so she hasn't done anything wrong. Ruth understandably was enraged over it. She said she was done with June and would never see her again. This broke me. They were so close growing up, and I prayed every day they'd reconcile. But I accepted they're adults who can make their own choices, and it has nothing to do with us. Kurt and I were also very disappointed with June and told her off many times. But after she proved that there was never any cheating involved while Ruth and Adam were together, things between us settled down. Out of respect for Ruth's feelings, we never brought the girls together again. Ruth and June visit us separately and still aren't on speaking terms after 5 years, but we maintained our relationships with them. Now, June and Adam are married. Ruth has also moved on with a lovely boy. Coincidentally, both girls are expecting their first child. Ruth's due date is a little earlier. I can't put into words how excited we are to be grandparents and adore both these children. I've been supportive and is involved with both our daughters' pregnancy as they want. However, last week Ruth drops a bomb on us. She said that if we ever see June again or her baby, she won't allow us in her child's life. I knew it bothered her that we were still on good terms with her sister, but this shattered me. It's kept me awake every night. The thought of either of my grandchildren being deprived of loving grandparents is agonizing. I know Ruth was deeply hurt by June's actions, but I don't know if we should be punished just for not cutting our kid off. We begged her to reconsider, but she's adamant. I don't want to accept Ruth's terms, but it seems like no matter what we decide, we're going to lose a daughter and grandchild. So I'd rather it not happen because we outright chose it. But I also don't want Ruth to believe we'd just drop her in favor of June because again the thought crushes me. Would I be the a-hole if I don't comply with Ruth's ultimatum? Edited to add, thank you to everyone for commiserating with the situation. I wish I could say it's helped me feel better, but right now it feels like nothing ever will. Entirely too many comments to respond to individually, so I just want to answer some of the most common questions here. Why did Ruth and Adam split up? Ruth left Adam because he was immature and said he did things that irritated her, mostly minor things adding up. She said there was never any abuse nor cheating that she knew of. Did we ever support Ruth at first? Ruth stayed with us for a few months when it first happened. Not just because of this, there were other reasons. And we were there for her and comforted her the whole time. Because she was so angry, we had asked June to not visit until she left, though we still talked to her and met a couple of times in public places. We made it known that this hurt her sister, and we were disappointed she didn't think of this. June understood and agreed with us supporting Ruth. She expressed sadness over losing her sister, but we clearly told her it was Ruth's decision to cut her off. Whether one thinks June did nothing wrong or not, it's untrue to say there were never any consequences for this. She's sad to this day that she's lost her sister and knows she has to accept and live with it. Did June ever apologize to Ruth? Both girls have confirmed that June reached out a few times over the years to apologize. No one put her up to it. Ruth didn't forgive her, and she's well within her rights not to. We understand no one can make her accept the apology. Why didn't we just cut off Adam? He's June's husband and the father of our second grandchild. They're a package deal now. Once we cut him off, we risk losing June and our grandchild anyway, which is the same as what I'm trying to prevent. Some people have said I'm an a-hole for accepting June after this, and that I already chose her by not cutting her off from the start. I'm baffled that anyone would suggest I should disown a child forever over this, and act like she was never ours. Not disowning June doesn't mean I chose to be her mother over Ruth. Ruth said she was just fine with how we'd arranged things for the last 5 years. As long as she never had to see June, she was happy seeing us, and everything was normal between us. It's only now that she's asking us to choose. Some people have said she should have cut us off from the start because we're awful and toxic. She's said many times she doesn't want to cut us off. She loves us and wants to be involved with her child, but she wants us to choose her over June, because June doesn't deserve the same love and care from us. I want to add that if Adam had ever mistreated or cheated on Ruth, we certainly would have gone no contact, or at least low contact, with them. But that's not what happened, and both girls used to repeatedly tell us that what happened between them had nothing to do with us. Not Daeho. She's just making a final bid for control and using the baby as leverage. What happened to Ruth sucks, but she shouldn't be trying to take out her feelings on you guys, who sound like loving parents. Tell her that you don't like the ultimatum and leave the door open should she change her mind. Kinda weird she's still not over it after 5 years though, especially given the time between both relationships and the fact they're married now. Maybe I'm being naive, having never been in a similar situation, but that just sits weird with me. I wonder what Ruth's partner thinks about it, if she has one. She can be over the ex. That doesn't mean she has to be willing to associate with someone who would betray other people in the way she sees the situation. Not Daeho. Tell Ruth that you will never turn your back on any of your children and that she's making the choice to not be a part of your life. Let her know that your door is always open, and as much as it hurts, continue to send cards, Christmas and birthday presents to your grandchild. She will most likely come around, but if she doesn't, you will know that you kept the lines of communication open while respecting her boundaries. I probably sound crazy, but thinking of this almost breaks my heart most of all. I know a few people who've been denied access to their grandkids who do this. The thought of sending gifts, cards, money, photos, etc. that will end up in some dusty box in an attic somewhere that our grandchild may never see absolutely kills me. They'll never know how much we love them and yearn for them. I'd wonder if Ruth would just throw everything away and there wouldn't even be any proof that we sent them or cared at all. If she asks us to stop sending them, we'd have to comply. But even if we get to shower June's child with love, I can never not think of the fact that we don't do the same for Ruth's. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter celebrate me for Mother's Day? I'm male 45. I'm a single dad to my daughter, 15 female. When my daughter was only a month old, her mother decided she didn't want to be a mom anymore and left. So it's just been my daughter and I ever since. My daughter grew up with friends/other girls whose mom did everything girly or motherly with them. But for my daughter, I was the one who was helping her get ready for dance competitions, taking her to concerts like Taylor Swift and Harry Styles, going shopping for clothes, and so much more. So with mostly her friends, she gave me the title Dad Mom jokingly because I act in both roles in my daughter's life. Of course, yesterday was Mother's Day. My daughter made a post with 2 pictures, a picture of her with my mom and sister, as well as a picture of just her and me. She just thanked her grandma and aunt for being motherly influences for her. And then she did a special shout out to me for being her dad mom and doing everything for her in both dad and mom roles. Well, we later went to dinner with my parents and my sister and her family. My sister asked my daughter why she mentioned me in her Mother's Day post. My daughter said, "Well, Dad's a single parent who acts as both a dad and a mom. I only have one parent, not two." My sister said, "Well, that's what Father's Day is for." She then turned to me and called me an a-hole, because Mother's Day is one day out of the year, so I shouldn't encourage my daughter to celebrate her dad on Mother's Day. My mom didn't feel like anything is wrong with it, but I feel like an a-hole. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. It's funny that when women post themselves on Father's Day because they're mom and dad, no one bats an eye. Shout out to you for being everything your daughter needs. It's hard enough being a girl. For you to try and understand or feed her interests says a lot about the stand-up man you are. Yep, that's what I was going to say. My siblings and I have spent the last 5 years celebrating my mom as a father on Father's Day, and nobody ever thinks it's taking away from fathers. If you were both parents, then you should be celebrated as both. I bet that makes her feel really special and loved, and she deserves to feel that way for all the hard work she does. I think it's awesome for kids to celebrate their single parents like this. Not a-hole. This isn't a good look for your sister. It comes across as her being jealous that you were mentioned, her feeling like she isn't enough of a motherly influence since your daughter mentioned you too. In the grand scheme of things, she's a hypocrite. And lucky she got to mention herself, since she's not technically your daughter's mother either. I know my daughter sees her grandma and aunt as motherly influence in her life. She can go to them if she needs any advice that she doesn't feel comfortable sharing with me. And that's great. Nothing wrong with it at all. But the fact that your sister is saying you shouldn't be mentioned when celebrating Mother's Day when you're not her mother is hypocritical because your sister isn't her mother either. Your daughter isn't an a-hole. You're not an a-hole, but your sister sure is. Not the a-hole. Your daughter can celebrate her dad, mom. Love it. On any damn day she wants. And it's no one's business but yours. You sound like an awesome parent. Good job. I find it ironic that according to your sister, it's okay for her to be included as an aunt, but not you as a dad. Talk about rules for thee, not for me. Thank you. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my brain-damaged uncle that I don't care what other people put up with and that in my house it can be polite or leave? My uncle 53 is a complete a-hole. He is vulgar and rude, and he positively delights in being as offensive as possible. My grandmother says it's from a brain injury when he was young. I have never seen proof of this, but my dad 50 male has put up with us his whole life. When I ask him about it, he just says that is the way his brother is and always has been. My mom basically banned him from our house when I was growing up, so I only saw him at family events. At weddings where he would say the groom looked gay or that the bride looked pregnant. Thanksgiving where he would tell offensive jokes at a table, or a birthday party where he said the food tasted like crap. Now, I, male 27, recently bought a house with my girlfriend 23. It is small and needs work, but we can afford it with a lot of help from our families and the bank. We had a housewarming this weekend and had a barbecue. It was the first time we could host a big group, as I only had a bachelor apartment and my girlfriend lived with her dad. My dad invited my uncle. I did not. My uncle shows up and starts being himself. He starts calling my home a crap hole and asks my girlfriend why she's with a loser like me. I ask him to come out in the front yard to talk for a second, and I read him the riot act. That I do not care that other people have coddled him his whole life, and if he cannot be civil, then he is welcome to GTFO. I was not quiet, so I'm pretty sure everyone in my backyard could hear me telling him to behave like a freaking civilized adult. He left, but spent the rest of the day texting everyone there, including his mom, my grandmother, and saying that is not his fault, that I overreacted to his behavior. It put a damper on the party. His family are kind of on his side, but my mom's family and my friends are backing me. Am I the a-hole? Not a-hole. It's your home, and he disrespected you in it. Also, your dad was out of line for inviting your uncle without consulting you first. If you can't respect your host, then you should leave. Plain and simple. Yeah, especially when his own wife banned a brother from their home. And the presumption of Opie's father to invite a nasty uncle to a house, that's not his. I've seen so many stories of people enabling bullies, but attack people when they stick up for themselves. Not the a-hole, Opie. You need to tell your dad that he won't be welcome in your house if he brings the a-hole uncle. In fact, that goes for all your family. That nasty uncle is never to set foot in your place. Who cares if your family complains? Let them deal with the a-hole uncle, and you could live free of his vitriol. I bet Dad thought that by inviting the uncle to Opie's house, he could circumvent his wife and host and spend more time with his brother again by having all the family events at Opie's house. Like, sorry wife, I can't control who Opie allows to come. If you want to see your son, you'll put up with uncle. Not the a-hole. I don't know if your uncle is the a-hole, but your dad is definitely the a-hole for inviting him without telling you. Also, your dad's family for expecting you to put up with him in your home. He's their responsibility, not yours. You really don't know if uncle is an a-hole? At least the narrative of the family is that he doesn't know better, but the father does. The uncle is an a-hole, but for the purposes of this sub, may not be one. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my mother-in-law that she's not allowed to meet our kids anymore? My husband and I have 2 5 female and 8 male children. After a very traumatic birth with my elder one, I decided that I'm not ready to go through that again. But we still wanted more children, so 5 years ago we adopted. My mother-in-law cares for our family, but she makes her preference for Malcolm more than clear. To begin with, she was absolutely furious hearing that I would not be having another biological child and was instantly disapproving. After hearing we were going to adopt a child, her anger turned into rage. She screamed about how we didn't know the parentage of the child and might end up bringing in someone who would disgrace her lineage. My husband was able to calm her down, and thankfully when we saw little Julia, it seemed like this was all behind us. Then yesterday, my mother-in-law decided to visit us. My husband was away on a trip, so she was just helping around. I was absolutely exhausted, so I asked if I could go down for a nap, and she was more than agreeing. After a few hours, she woke me up and informed me that she was about to leave. All was good. I was cooking in the kitchen, and all of a sudden I hear a loud bang, preceded with a crying Julia. When I rush into the hall, I see Malcolm towering over her. "You're not real. All of this is mine," he started screaming, which was incredibly confusing to say the least. After calming them down, I asked Malcolm what he meant. He then revealed that Grandma Muriel had told him that he was Mommy and Daddy's real son. This made me incredibly mad. I asked him what else Grandma has told him, and he told me all about how she had been telling him that Julia wasn't really his sister, and how he should get extra attention for being extra special, how he was always going to be Grandma's favorite grandson, and so much more. Blinded with rage, I blocked Muriel and everything after sending her a text detailing her actions, and how this was absolutely unacceptable, and how she'd never be seeing her grandkids until they're much older and understand the situation, so they wouldn't be swayed by her words. I probably overreacted, to be fair, as she is quite an old lady. After my husband returned, we got into quite the argument. To say the least, my husband disagreed. He adores his mother and told me that stopping her from seeing the kids is inhumane, that she's simply old-fashioned, and she didn't know her words would bring this big of an impact or some such. We will be having a civil discussion about this later. Edit? I'm sorry I didn't clarify this earlier, but both Julia and Malcolm know that she is adopted. I've had a conversation with both the children, although I have had it separately with the both of them. I think I might have to have this conversation once again and make sure Julia knows that it doesn't matter whether she's adopted or not. Now for the comments. I need you to understand this. Your husband is saying he will let his mother mistreat your daughter. You have a serious problem in your family, and you need to get into counseling to fix it immediately before he ruins this young girl's life. And you need to prepare for the fact that your husband may never really love or protect his adopted daughter, and you will have to be the one who protect her from both of them, not the a-hole. Exactly. I said in my own comment that he has no business being a parent if he can't keep his mother away from his daughter. I also suggested therapy. Parents through adoption have to be ready to protect their kids, first and foremost. My God, I was horrified when I read that the husband disagreed with her decision because he adores his mom. Hope he should have their son tell his dad exactly what Grandmommy Dearest said, and then ask, "So you're okay with your mom saying these things about your daughter? Is that what you were telling me? That our daughter deserves to be told she isn't as worthy of our love because she's not our biological child? Are you telling me that you love your mom more than Julia? Because that's the only takeaway from you wanting your mother around after the horrible things she said. And if he still wants mom around, divorce him. The end. Your child's welfare is more important than saving a marriage with a man who will allow his mom to mistreat his child. You can either support me in my decision to hold your mother accountable for her actions, or I will file for divorce. This is a hard deal breaker for me. What your mother did was unforgivable in my eyes, and I will not allow our children to be raised to think they aren't really brother and sister because your ignorant mother thinks our adopted child is less than our biological child. So you need to pack a bag and go stay somewhere else because I can't even look at you right now. I am beyond disappointed that you don't see anything wrong with what your mother said and did, or the fact that your son attacked your daughter because of it. Pull your head out of your butt, or I will do what I have to do to protect our children, even if that means ending this marriage. Not the a-hole. I think this might just be where this goes. If my husband doesn't agree to cut her off of our kids, I'm done. Their mental health, happiness, and relationship with each other is more important than a husband who won't see that he's actively hurting by neglecting his own daughter. More so, also ruining her perception in front of his son. Thank you so much for the comment. Last story. Would I be the a-hole asking our friend to return a baby shower gift after a miscarriage? I know this sounds awful and I feel like it might be a terrible thing to do, so I need some advice. My husband has a long-term family friend named Jen. Jen and I aren't friends at all, but we are friendly when we see each other. When Jen had her first kid, my husband purchased a fairly expensive item off of her baby shower registry as a gift. Around $200 to $300 if I recall correctly. I had no issue with the gift or how much he spent. It was a nice item to gift her, and we were excited for her to grow her family with her then boyfriend, now husband. Fast forward a few years, Jen and her husband are high earners, both making over 6 figures. Jen announced she was pregnant again very early along and sent my husband her baby shower registry with her announcement text, which was full of high-priced items. Personally, I thought this was strange because she should still have most of the items from her first kid and didn't think people usually did full-blown baby showers or registries after their first. I was also surprised she was asking for gifts when she was still in the first trimester, but I'm a cautious person and didn't announce my pregnancy until 20 weeks, which I know is extreme on the other side. I left it up to my husband what he wanted to do, but mentioned to him that I was surprised she was organizing another shower or gifting event, since she already has a young kid and got brand new stuff then. My husband spent around $400 on a gift for her, which is fine with me, but a few weeks later, Jen had a traumatic miscarriage. I won't get into the details, but she was devastated, and the cost of the loss likely means she won't be able to carry future pregnancies to term. It's incredibly sad, and while I'm not close with Jen, my heart hurt for her. It's been a few months since her loss, and my husband is now unsure of how to navigate the gift. It's not something she can use for her older kid, but asking her to return the gift seems cruel, like adding a chore onto her grief, and it's probably past the return window anyway. I'm also not sure if she's going to keep trying to have more kids, which is now very risky for the baby and herself, and it seems incredibly sensitive to ask. Plus, she may not have decided yet. Asking her to pay us back for it also seems very cruel. My husband and I are also decently high earners, but $400 is still a lot of money. It's one thing if she's able to get a few years of use out of the item, so that's money well spent. But if it's going to sit in a box in her attic for years, that's where we are getting stuck. So would we be the a-hole if we ask about getting the gift back? Ideally, we could get our money back somehow, although it's probably too late. If we can't, then I'd at least like to gift it to someone else who can use it. I feel awful just saying that, but it's how I feel. However, this is such a sensitive subject and we don't want to pressure her if she's not ready to discuss it. You're the a-hole. It was a gift. It shouldn't come with terms and conditions. You gave it away. It's gone. Exactly. It doesn't matter what Jen does with any present after she receives it. It was a gift to her and is hers now. Hope let it go. Jen could very well decide to gift or donate it herself. Better to just treat it like a regular gift and not think about it as a waste. You're the a-hole. You chose to spend much money. You absolutely didn't have to. There's no tactful way to ask for it back. It will look petty and greedy, so they'll either try to return everything if they want to or donate it. But once the gift's given, you should let it go. Update. I appreciate the feedback I've gotten. We will not be asking Jen about the gift. We don't want to make her feel worse than she already is. Given her statements in the past regarding adoption, I doubt she will find alternative ways to have another child if she isn't able to do so biologically. But that's her path to walk. If she doesn't use it, I hope she at least donates the item to someone who needs it. People have also commented on my tone, and I just wanted to clarify that Jen is truly only my husband's friend, not mine. We aren't couples friends with her and her husband. Jen and my husband were close as kids, but haven't been close for years, before I ever came into the picture. Sort of like a cousin he grew up with, but only talk to at major holidays now. I don't hate Jen, but we have very different worldviews, so we likely won't ever be close. I'm sympathetic to Jen's loss as a person, and as a person who has also experienced miscarriages. But I am not personally devastated by it, if that makes sense. If my husband wrote the post, the tone would have been different. Given how long they've known each other and how she's so integrated into their family, he felt it was appropriate to gift her a big-ticket item, which I thought was justified. I do wish he had waited to send it, because I warned him that it was very early in her pregnancy, and anything could happen. Am I the a-hole? I, 39 female, lied to my brother, 41 male, about my financial situation because I don't want to help him. My husband, 41 male, is a farmer while my brother works in IT. He and his wife, 41 female, always talk about his cute little farm and have never visited it or asked further questions about it. It's not exactly a cute little farm. It's rather two separate larger businesses with several employees which he manages, and in which he also both works manually, to get a break from paperwork he hates. There are also properties he is renting out. I never talked or explained any of that to my brother. He never asked, and both he and his wife have made several comments that showed he is looking down on my husband. Never to my husband's face though, if it helps. I am also cautious around my sister-in-law who has a bit of a spending problem, and my brother who always enables her. If you look from the outside, we seem like a normal middle-class couple. There is nothing fancy about our cars, home, or activities. So, things went to a head last year for the first time, got resolved, and are bad again now. My brother and his wife own a home and have a kid, 4 female. Due to excessive spending, like 2 new cars per year, 5 vacations in star resorts each year, etc., they are financially in trouble. My brother asked me if I could help with the utilities or the mortgage, and told me he might lose his home. I lied and told him I wouldn't be able to. Mostly because of their comments about my husband, I didn't and don't want to help. Also, part of me thinks that if they sold their still brand new cars and would buy used ones instead, or even stop the constant vacations, there wouldn't be any problems at all, due to the amount he is asking for. I feel like an a-hole though, as A, it's not my place to judge where they put their money, and B, we could pay off their home and cars and it wouldn't even put a dent in our financial situation. But I still don't want to. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. My brother and his wife own a home and have a kid, 4 female. Due to excessive spending, 2 new cars per year, 5 vacations in star resorts each year, etc., they are financially in trouble. That's another reason not to help them. What makes you think they wouldn't just spend the money and come back asking for more? Not the a-hole. I'm actually sure they wouldn't change any of that. Just the way they talk about it being a necessity, while looking down on a lot of people. No one is entitled to your money. Tell them it's not in your budget, and that's it. Not the a-hole. I just realized how brilliantly simple this line is. Of course it is not in my budget. I don't have any budget allocations for brother's mortgage, or brother's 2 cars per year, or brother's vacations. So, it is not in my budget is always true. Not the a-hole. But rather than say I can't help you, I would feel very comfortable putting that back on them. How do you expect us to help when we just have a nice little farm? Didn't you take a really expensive vacation recently? Not the a-hole for not helping, but if you don't ever call them on their behavior, then the behavior won't change. Yes, probably. But every hint of criticism has been met with heavy pounding and blowouts, etc. It's just not worth the fight. We live on opposing ends of the country and only meet face-to-face during holidays. So I always thought that would not be worth the trouble. Not the a-hole. Even if you can't afford to loan money, it's a bad idea. I doubt it would be a loan. His wife gives the impression that spending money is an Olympic routine she is competing in. In the past, there have been several minor instances where we paid for smaller items and they always forget to repay or chip in, etc. Even when we were invited to a restaurant, we ended up paying because they had an emergency / forget their wallet, etc. Yeah, I wouldn't enable this nonsense. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my parents they have to move out? I, 30 female, and my husband, 32 male, own our home. We bought it about 3 years ago, and it is our first home. We love our house. We are both introverted, and I have very bad anxiety, so having a nice peaceful home is an absolute must. We both work hectic jobs and I work nights, so our schedules can be very stressful sometimes, and our home is our only chill space. We also have a daughter who is in school. About a year and a half ago, we asked my parents to move in with us. They were wanting to relocate, and we were needing help with our daughter on the days she was not in school. The arrangement made was supposed to be that they would stay with us about 6 months while they found a place to live, and would watch our daughter when she was out of school in return. We were also promised that they would help contribute to groceries and bills and other household needs. This was all discussed in full before they moved in. Well, that was 1.5 years ago now. For the first 4 months, everything was going great. We all got along, they helped out, they respected our home, and it was really nice having them around. However, starting month 5 to 1.5 years, things have went downhill at a rapid rate. They do not help with anything around the house. Cleaning, dishes, bills, groceries, nothing. They also create chaos. My mom doesn't work in his home all day every day. Still, she will not watch our daughter, so we had to find another babysitter. When my dad is home, they sleep all day, and then are up all hours of the night cooking food for themselves, doing their laundry, taking showers, etc. They make so much noise that they end up waking our daughter up multiple times a night. We have had multiple conversations about them needing to find their own place, but they just ignore it or start yelling. Everything has gotten to a point where I am constantly anxious, having panic attacks, fighting a lot with my husband, and having to clean up after them like teenagers. It all came to a head on Thanksgiving, when my daughter asked a question and my mom started yelling at her. My husband got very mad and told them they need to move out and do it soon. My husband and I had been talking about 2 days prior about me finding a way to tell them to move out after the holidays. But after everything that happened that night, it all unfortunately came out on Thanksgiving. I think my parents expected me to go against my husband and tell them they can stay, but I stand with my husband. Our lives have been a mess for the past 1.5 years, and most problems have been rooted in stuff they did. I told them they have to move out and soon. So, am I the a-hole? I forgot to clarify that they are both in their mid-50s and of sound mind and body. Not the a-hole. They can have their own place to be as loud as they want, or they have to respect your agreements and boundaries. It's hard with parents, but at a certain age, the roles reverse. Actually, it happens over time, but you get the point. Sounds like you are at the beginning of the phase. Top comment is right though. They either have to respect you or leave. Not that elders don't deserve any kind of care, respect, or anything like that, but age doesn't give you permission for not respecting the boundaries of others, especially not when it can be so exhausting, like for OP. Not the a-hole for supporting your husband. A bit the a-hole for letting it go on this long. I let it go on this long because I didn't want to ruin the relationship with my parents. I can see how I am the a-hole though, because it caused a lot of stress on my marriage, and my husband doesn't deserve that at all. I believe you have the best of intentions, but what you're putting your own family through for the sake of your parents is quite unfair. I hope you get them out before this permanently damages your marriage. I totally agree. It is very unfair. My husband and daughter are my life, and no one comes before them. It took me way longer to open my eyes to what was going on than it should have. I swept issues under the rug to save myself stress, but in return, I put stress on my marriage and my husband and daughter. I am very aware of all of this now, and I'm trying to make sure my husband and daughter are not going to be put under any more stress from all of this. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not comforting my wife after my daughter told her she's not her mom? I have 3 children, 15, 11, and 3. My 35 partner, 28, and I have been together for 10 years. We have 50-50 custody of the 2 eldest. Nearly 4 years ago, we had a rough patch, and a one-night stand is what led to my youngest being born. We've got full custody, but my wife is all she knows as her mother. All children call my wife their mom. She's a great parent. She got the eldest into gymnastics and swimming. She does their homework with them, and they're really close. It's nice to see. It's hard to explain exactly how she's a good parent. She just is. We found out we were expecting 8 months ago, and this caused our youngest to start acting out. Nursery teachers told us it was completely normal for young children to regress when big news happens. 7 months into our pregnancy, we lost the baby. It upset me, but it's completely devastated my wife. She acts like everything's normal, but she's crying herself to sleep. I don't have the emotional bandwidth anymore. I'm exhausted. We just lost a child, not just her. I'd been trying to get ready for work while my wife got the youngest ready, and I guess we were having a rough morning because I heard my youngest tell my wife, "You're not my mom. You don't love me?" Obviously not exact wordings. It's not the first time she's told my wife this. We don't even know how the youngest knows this. I went to work, and when I came back, the eldest told us that my wife dropped the youngest off at nursery and then locked herself in our room, and apparently had been crying for a few hours then left. I messaged her and got told, "Thanks for helping me this morning. I'm staying at my mother's. I'm not in the mood to help with your child at the moment since you don't help me or tell her I'm her mother." Youngest deserves to know her background. We've tried to explain to her stepmother, etc., but she's young. She'll understand when she's older. I explained that I had work. She's handled it before, but I've been left on red. I apologized. Didn't realize she was so unhappy, but said that at the end of the day, youngest lost her sibling too, and it's been a difficult transition. We're looking into family counseling. I did say I'd appreciate her not having eldest witness her being this upset next time, as she's still a child. If I've left any info out, so I'll answer. Hands are greasy and it's hard to type. It was a casual morning. She usually handles getting them ready, and we've had issues like this before that she's handled. Honestly, sometimes hearing things like this has become white noise now, because I know my wife can handle it when I've got to work. Edit. The reason I say not to be as upset in front of my eldest is because eldest went to her biological mom and told her she was worried about her mom, my wife, which I don't think is fair. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Downplaying your cheating, and downplaying your wife's trauma, and blaming her for not being entirely composed after she had a late-term miscarriage? Have you always been so selfish and neglectful? Your wife is so obviously struggling with a serious depressive crisis, and you're just completely neglecting that. I'm wondering at all your other delightful behaviors. You're the a-hole. That's not even considered a late-term miscarriage. At that point, it's considered a stillbirth. She would have still had to give birth, which just adds more trauma. You're the a-hole. You had to work, and you don't appreciate having your eldest witness her being upset? You have got a lot of gall. She is raising your affair baby. She has lost her bio child, and your affair baby screaming at her about not being her mom and she doesn't love her. And the best excuse you can come up with is you had to work. And it's happened before, so no big deal? I noticed you used the phrase, "I guess we were having a rough morning." Nah, dude, you were having a fine morning, while your wife is getting screamed at by your affair baby. And you don't appreciate your eldest witnessing her be upset? Why not? Being upset after an emotionally trying day is completely normal. Maybe instead of lecturing her via text, you should ask what you could do to help. You should hope your wife forgives you. You should beg for forgiveness, because you don't sound like a very nice partner with the affair baby and telling your wife how she's allowed to act. Edit. Holy smokes. I just saw the comment about how y'all were only separated for a month when you got another woman pregnant. How in the hell did you manage to find this absolute saint of a woman and keep her this long? You may have lost her this time, and if so, you have only yourself to blame. It's not the children's responsibility to bear witness to their parents' moods. It's not their responsibility to be stressed about how their parent feels. And I'm sorry, I grew up in a household with a depressed dad, and I feel very strongly about my children not seeing that. And you don't appreciate your eldest witnessing her be upset? Why not? It's self-preservation, nothing more. He doesn't want his kids to realize what kind of trashy father they have, and all their problems in the family was brought home by him. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not giving anyone my earrings in my will? Context. When I was young, I was given a pair of handmade gold earrings from my grandmother. She died when I was 12. I still wear them to this day. So I, 30 female, have cancer. It's one of the most survivable ones, so I'm trying not to be too worried. To be on the safe side though, I decided I would update my will just in case something were to happen. I left the house to my husband, 30 male, and divided my money 3 ways to go to him, my daughter, 5 female, and my sister, 29 female. However, when my sister found my will, she was livid. That was because I had said that if I were to die, I would like to be buried with my earrings as they are very special to me. My sister said that she should get the earrings after I died to be close to me. I don't want to give it to her though. It was given to me as a gift and holds sentimental value. I even got my ears pierced again so that I wouldn't have to swap out the earrings. I told her that it was mine and she wouldn't get it, to which she ran to our mom. My mom is telling me to give it to her while I'm still alive, since my sister is already scared for me and doesn't need the stress. I don't want to, but I'm wondering if I'm the a-hole if I told her no. Am I? Added to clear some stuff up. 1. The earrings are not heirlooms. They were a gift made solely for me. 2. My sister did not like my grandmother. She even refused a necklace our grandma got her because she thought it was too ugly. 3. My daughter has many other earrings, necklaces, rings, and other jewelry I'm getting for her. 4. I'm thinking about finishing the other half-finished set and giving it to my daughter, but it's really expensive, so I'm not sure. 5. I have thyroid cancer, but luckily it was caught early, and I'm undergoing treatment, so please don't worry. Edit number 2. 1. My sister went snooping and found my will in my office. I was leaving her only $20,000 if I were to pass. 2. My daughter has way more money than my sister. She'll get $1.3 million after my death. I made it so that she wouldn't get the money too young and live a normal life. 3. My husband has a very good job. It makes $200,000 a year, so I'm not worried he won't be able to manage. 4. I am seriously considering removing my sister completely after her BS. 5. I don't talk to my daughter much about my cancer because I don't want her to think of me as sick. So we try to fill up her life with happy memories. 6. Again, my earrings are not heirlooms. They were made for me and me alone. 7. The house is going to my daughter. If me and my husband were to die, she'll be inheriting the house as soon as she turns 21. Your mom thinks it's more important to accommodate your sister than to respect the wishes of her possibly dying daughter? I would remove my sister from my will altogether if she pulled something like this. Our relationship would be permanently damaged, not the a-hole. Edit, I don't get all the people telling Opie it's a waste to be buried with the earrings. Where's your empathy? She's a young woman who is dealing with the possibility of dying. That's horrendous. She's trying to cope with it, and it doesn't matter that it seems irrational to us. If planning on being buried with them brings her even a hint of comfort, it isn't a waste. You think her daughter wants to discover that her mom was pressured out of something that comforted her as she was struggling, so she could get a pair of earrings? Not the a-hole, and I'd tell sister, okay, I'm changing the will. You get nothing. Picking over my bones while I'm still using them is some rude nonsense. If I do decide to give the earrings to someone, they will go to my daughter. Either way, you aren't getting anything. This reminds me of the argument I use with my kid. Kid asks if he can have 4 cookies. I say no, he can have 2. He whines and wants 3. I say it can be 0. He then happily agrees to 2.